Hey everyone, Andre here. I just want to go over this week's readings with you and a lot of the information that was presented. One of the first things that stood out to me was Ada and Campoy when they were talking about reading with students and the importance of reading and why we should teach them storytelling. Storytelling being a very ancient part of communication. And that if we were to teach that to students, that eventually they should be able to write their own stories. And I can recall an activity that I very much enjoyed in my schooling and my studies, and that was collaborating with a dead poet, which is where you take a poem that you like and basically add on to it or cut it in, or segment it and finish it or implement it in some way to a work that you're doing. I feel like that would be a great great activity for secondary language learners. And it not only teaches them the ability to tell stories or prose for that matter, but it allows them to make a statement about their own identities. Because their identities are changing. We have this view of a transformative identity, so if we can help nourish that through language, then we're doing something that's not only good for them academically, but good for them spiritually. And then moving on to One Child, Two Languages, there was something I wanted to read straight out of the book that I very, very much enjoyed. To make sense of new language, second language learning child will need to assume that actions and words are connected. When a teacher is holding an object or talking, the second language child will need to assume that one of the words being used refers to that object, particularly if one word is repeated or emphasized. So this sounds a lot like the PWIM picture word, what is it, introduction method, picture word, inductive method. So this happens socially and cognitively on two different levels. Cognitively, we like to remember formulaic phrases like we learned last week and turn them into a productive use of language. However, when you pair that with social behaviors and the implications of the social stratosphere, certain students, depending on where they want to stand socially, will either learn the language, force themselves to learn the language faster or slower, much like the 5 Mexican children who were learning language. That one girl, Nora, I would assume, wanted to reach the level of English that her fellow mono and bilingual students were already at, and constantly put herself in social situations where she was listening, analyzing, hypothesizing, and then testing those hypotheses of her new language, leading her to read, leading her to acquire the language at a much further level than the other students, who I would assume were, socially scared. So understanding the sociability of students and putting them in situations where they can be sociable is an extremely well-working tool that us as teachers can use, especially when we're trying to teach new languages to students. So I really like that. And the picture word inductive method seemed like a really archaic form, once again, of how to teach students, but I like it. It sounds very basic, right? But I like it, especially when you try to think about memorization and learning and remembering. The cognitive load theory made a lot of sense. You shouldn't just say, well, this word means this, and expect students to remember it. By creating, how do I say this? By explaining the word in a way that, one, makes a personal connection, two, is something that they can actually absorb, then they have a much higher capacity for memorization and remembering these things. Whereas you could just give them a list and say, well, these are the translations. That's not really going to be something feasible for them to do. And you also make it more difficult for them by doing that. So the picture word induction method, cognitive load theory, all kind of tying together with that activity that I was talking about from Aiden Campoy. I really like that idea of the collaborating with a dead poet, and you could also implement images into that, and it's a great way for you to gauge students' language learning. I'm eager to hear what you think about it. I really hope someone disagrees with me. I want to hear an opposing view. If not, that's okay. And I hope you all had a great weekend. Toodles.